What an absolute wild Monday morning for the Miami Dolphins, as there has been a severe blockbuster trade where Jalen Ramsey has finally been dealt away from this Dolphins roster and he is heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, there's more, because the Dolphins are also getting Minkah Fitzpatrick back to the roster in that deal for Jalen Ramsey. The former first-round pick from the Dolphins heads back to Miami to help kind of replace Ramsey in that secondary. Oh wait, there's more. Jonnu Smith has also been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a late-round pick swap deal. So not only do the Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick back, but they trade Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. We will work through the entire trade here on this video, and then we will be going live on the channel to react and break it down more in depth later today. So make sure you subscribe for more news on the Miami Dolphins, and when breaking news happens, we have you covered. All right, there's a lot to process here because we'll start with Jalen Ramsey first. This was something that was an inevitability. Ramsey was always going to be traded. It was just a matter of when and to who. We thought it would be coming closer to training camp. It comes a little bit before, which I am actually happy about. I'll explain why here in a second. And we knew the teams that were interested were Pittsburgh, because Slick Rick had that scoop about a month ago. The Los Angeles Rams, we knew that the Chargers had a semi-bit of interest here as well. And then we knew the Atlanta Falcons were kind of in the mix since Ramsey and Raheem Morris had a pretty good relationship. But it ends up being Pittsburgh. I'm sitting here wondering, okay, the trade happens, not that surprised. What are we going to get back in value? How much are the Dolphins paying in terms of salary? What draft comp are Miami going to get? And then it comes out of nowhere, it's Minkah Fitzpatrick. And I'm just at a loss. Not many things can happen in the sports world at this point that make me just truly sit there and be like, whoa. What does this mean? How did this happen? What am I even supposed to think here? But Minkah Fitzpatrick returning to the Miami Dolphins is certainly one of them. And this is what I want to ask the people at home. What is your one-word reaction to the Ramsey trade? You get Fitzpatrick, you get a late-round pick for Jonnu and Jalen Ramsey. Let me know your thoughts. One word. One word. Let me know what it is. Mine is chaos. That's the one word. So Adam Schefter just had the note. All in all, the full trade is the Steelers get Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. The Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick and a late-round pick. It is not clear on what late-round pick they sent, but I'll tell you what, I got a little bit excited when the Dolphins traded Ramsey and got Minkah Fitzpatrick back, because I was like, oh, this is sick. We don't have the worst secondary in football after the Ramsey trade, because Minkah coming back is pretty huge. But then Jonnu Smith gets thrown in the deal, and it's just like, well, this actually does kind of suck. I'm not very happy about Jonnu Smith being traded. I thought they were going to work it out, and now the Dolphins have a massive need at tight end. But let's talk about Minkah Fitzpatrick here for a second, because obviously he was phenomenal for the Miami Dolphins after they drafted him, but then you see the kind of falling out, if you will, of him and that Dolphins coaching staff. They trade him for a haul of picks, and then he's been in Pittsburgh balling out as one of the top 5, top 10 safeties in the National Football League over the past couple of seasons. He's been a 4-time Pro Bowler. He has been on the All-Pro team twice since leaving Miami. He was an All-Pro player for the Dolphins in 2019 as well. So, man, he's been really, really good for the Fins, and then really, really good for the Steelers. And Miami adding that to the safety room not only does good wonder for that room, but it also makes it very interesting on what the plan is at cornerback, because which safety now is on the out, kinda, if you will, in that room? Because there certainly will be one, right? Like, you're going to look at a player like Patrick McMorris, who was picked in the 6th round last year, and be like, how in the world is he going to make this roster when you have Minkah, Melifonwu, Ashton Davis, Dante Trader Jr., and Elijah Campbell on that group as well? So it's going to be a tough battle at that safety room. But speaking on Fitzpatrick and what he might be able to do for the Fins here, listen, the Pro Bowl is not a real award. I thought Minkah had a little bit of a down year last season, but he was still a Pro Bowler, playing in all 17 games. He did miss 7 games in 2023, but made the Pro Bowl as well there. Didn't really have the best numbers when you look at that 2023 season for Minkah. That might have been more or less a, like, this is who I am, like I am that good of a player in my history type of thing. But yeah, also another part of this is the financial aspect of it. We always talked about how if the Dolphins traded Minkah or Jalen Ramsey, they would free up $9.9 million in cap space. I'm looking here at the salary for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's going to be 29 this year, by the way. He has a $15.5 million base. He's got $17.6 million base in 25-26, and then he's an unrestricted free agent in 2027. So he's got 2 years left on his deal, age 29 and age 30, and his cap hit is exactly that number, 15.5 and 17.6. I'm trying to figure out how much guaranteed money he has, because that will be a big thing here as we work through this trade details together, folks. Here it is. So when he signed that extension, he got $36 million in guarantees. Okay, so according to Over the Cap right now, I'm looking at it, he has 0 guaranteed salary in 25 and 26. Now, they did have a prorated signing bonus, which carries $6.8 million in 25 and 26. But so when you're looking at this right now, you're not really looking for Miami side of this much more than $15.5 or $17.6 million for the next 2 seasons. And I think that's just a phenomenal deal for Miami, because you can, if he ends up stinking and it doesn't work out in terms of the relationship again with Miami, you can move on with really no issue whatsoever here. Like, they won't cut him this year, but they could cut him. They would have $13 million in dead cap, $8 million in savings. And then in 2026, they could cut him and save $17.6 million and just have a dead cap of 6.8 in 2026. But that's all very dependent on how Minkah ends up playing this year for the Dolphins and how he fits into the Anthony Weaver scheme, which I just have to imagine he'll do good, because he is just one of the best safeties we've seen over the last decade. I'm looking back at some of his stats here now. I mean, he's still graded out really well on Pro Football Focus. Had a missed tackle percentage of 8.8%. That is something that we've always known about Minkah Fitzpatrick. He is a very good and very willing tackler, and I'm excited to see that back end line security in the Dolphins again. Hasn't had a missed tackle percentage above 10% in each of the last 3 seasons. Gave up a 69, 64, 75 completion percentage, about 11 yards per catch, and been graded out at mid to high 60s, low 80s over the last 3 seasons on Pro Football Focus. So Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to be a Dolphin once again, which I find very, very fun and fascinating. But there is another part of this trade as well, and it's the Jonnu Smith part of this all, which is where we're going to round out today's show here, because unfortunately Jonnu Smith was also traded in this deal. I'm not happy about that whatsoever. I wanted him to stay. I thought the Dolphins were going to be able to get this deal done here, but unfortunately they were not able to, and the trade is official with Jonnu Smith in it. The pick just came out, by the way. The Dolphins, it's Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2027, so not even this year's draft coming up, a 2027 7th-round pick to get Minkah and a 2027 5th-round pick. So you hear it there. The Dolphins get a 5th-round pick in 2027 and Minkah for Ramsey and Jonnu. This is going to be something that Miami also has to figure out a way to navigate, because sure, replacing Ramsey in that secondary got a little bit easier with Minkah Fitzpatrick coming along, because now I think you would only probably have to add one more free agent corner, and then that's what the secondary is going to be going forward. But the part that really stinks is replacing Jonnu Smith. You signed Jonnu Smith to a 2-year deal with about $9 million last offseason. He had a career year for you. He set single-season franchise records in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns for that tight end position. He wants a little bit of a pay bump with 1 year left on his deal, and you just simply don't give it to him. listen, that's your choice. Jonnu Smith is going to be 30 years old, and there's a clear direction that Miami's going in terms of not wanting to give larger extension contracts to players that are reaching and past the age of 30. So I would expect Minkah Fitzpatrick to go through this 2-year contract in Miami, and well, that would probably be it for Minkah in his return, in conclusion, in reunion with the Miami Dolphins. But you're going to now have to find a new tight end because this room is simply just not good enough. It's Tanner Conner, Julian Hill, and Pharaoh Brown. That ain't going to get it done. And I know the tight end position hasn't been important in the past, but I think we saw how effective a good tight end could be with Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa with Jonnu Smith. So quickly looking at top free agents, it's like Gerald Everett and like Hayden Hurst. Like, it's not very good. So to me, you might have to look for another trade here with Miami looking at a tight end. Maybe you can think about grabbing Michael Mayer from the Las Vegas Raiders. There was buzz about him being available on the trade market earlier this offseason. That's certainly an option that I'm going to keep an eye on here for Miami. But the point is, the Dolphins and Chris Grier make a blockbuster trade. I don't know if we've ever seen a blockbuster trade this late in the June before, where the Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 2027 fifth-round pick for Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 seventh-round pick. So fascinating stuff here. Like I said, subscribe and join us for our live show that we're going to go for here in a second to recap even more. We'll look at some other players that Miami can get and answer some questions. So make sure you subscribe and join us for that. And make sure you also follow me over on Twitter too, at Nic_Rohloff, because, well, if you do, you would have known about the news before I posted this video. So appreciate everyone who tuned in, and I'll see you for that live show in a little bit. So make sure you sub and join us.